system unfolding. Military science fiction podcast. Untold stories every Wednesday. Military science fiction podcast. Discussion, interviews, reviews, and rants. Military science fiction podcast.
Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Today, we are talking about adversity in creativity. Yeah, and also in Star Trek. Can everybody do that? Does everybody, it's like tongue rolling. Can you make the piece? There you
Can
go.
you do it like this?
Ooh, you're complicating things. Rick raised his hand according to Zoom.
Question is, what is this? Is live long and prosper, or peace and long life? What is this?
Eat crap and die?
No, die immediately and decay.
Nice.
So we've all been at this a while, and I think we're all family men with children and families and stuff going on all the time that you'd never expect coming at you sideways. And when you're in this career, being creative or, in particular writing, and you have to, it's not like building a table. Like I could get away from the difficulty in my life and go out in the garage and do work, which I do quite often. But when you have to sit down and do all the multiple steps of what it takes to, in our case, write a book, that's pretty tough when you've got other stuff on your mind. And then not only on your mind, but physically keeping you away from the thing you need to do to sit down and get the work done. So it can be tough sometimes. And so I think today we wanted to talk about, maybe we could, if folks are comfortable, we could share a little bit of what, things we've gone through, and then how we just kept getting the work done. And maybe in some cases didn't get the work done. And if that happened, how did you talk to your publisher about that, or your editor, or, other people you were working with, and how'd you get through it? Right. Because, we all have to come out on the other side. So I don't know, anybody want to jump in?
I think one of the most important things that you can do is be consistent and committed before there's adversity. Because momentum, right? Things in motion tend to stay in motion. And if you're already in the habit of writing every day, and you're already in the habit of producing these books and stories, when adversity hits, it's really easy to it's not easy. You can maintain that habit and fall back into that habit if you lose track a lot easier than you can form a new habit while you're in the middle of your house burned down, or a family member passed away, or heaven forbid you've been, got your legs amputated or something horrible like that, that's affecting you personally. It's a lot easier to maintain your momentum if you've already have it, as opposed to trying to establish it once adversity hits.
Agreed. But I think we've all been through some type of adversity in our writing career, and some problems are bigger than other problems. Some problems are short term, like Rick's surgery deal. It's short term and he'll be over that, and it's a physical thing that is preventing him from getting the words the way he wants to. Sometimes it's a mental block and you don't know what you're trying to do with the story, and sometimes it's just like regular life. Some of you guys might know my books, the Valor trilogy that I wrote. I published that first book back in 2019, I think 2020-ish, and the third one came out, I think 2021-ish. And after that, I got into a project that was very, very depressing and killed my entire enjoyment of the writing process. And that was right after I went full time. And I was on
that shared project you did.
Yeah, he who shall not be named, like Lord Voldemort. But it was an agonizing process to even get through writing, and there were a lot of times I would sit at the computer and just look at the screen, knowing that I needed to get words, and then not doing them because I just could not motivate myself to do it. So Enemy of Valor, which Rick basically named because he hated Essence of Valor because he made it seem like a perfume, and I hate you for that, Rick, because I like Essence better, but whatever.
Ode to Valor.
Yeah.
Ode to Valor.
Ode to Valor.
Ode to Valor.
It's been a huge struggle getting back in, and weaponized has been a couple of years in the making, and that's because I had to stop that and work on something else. But some of it is I remember getting up in the morning before going to the police work and getting 2,000 words in the morning and getting up at 4 or 5 a.m. and doing the words and then going to work. And then I got into the full-time gig and I didn't have to do that. And then trying to force myself to do it, but also after having 2 years of just agonizing trying to get this project out of the way and over with. um I was having days where I was having 100 word days, 200 word days. And I kind of liken it to after you've been going to the gym for a while and you're, bulky and you're, benching 275 pounds or whatever it is. And then you get an injury and you go back to the gym and you can't lift that anymore. You just don't want to go to the gym because you feel like a big pansy. And it's like, I used to be able to do this. I go back in, I could barely get 145. I'm not doing this again. And so it's for me, it's hard to get back into the words because now I'm only getting, 500 a day or 600 a day as opposed to 2,000 or 3,000. I mean, there were some days where I got 5 or 6,000 words. And sometimes I look at it and go, oh, I'm never going to get it. And so I just don't. And that's it. That mental block is really, really hard to get over. But I think just like when you started writing, or when I did anyway, you get 200 or 300 words, and you're like, that was a lot of words for me. And then the next day you get 200 or 300 more, and then slowly over time you build back up to get back to where you need to be. And that's where I'm at. I'm still at that phase right now of trying to get back to where I need to be and know that if I really sit down and work at it for an hour, I'll have 1,000 words. I just have to convince myself that I can do it.
Yeah,
I'm in a lot of the same boat for the
Mhm.
last couple of years. We moved, and you know, my wife's father passed away, and that was been a kind of a really big deal. And then my son went deaf, and now my brother's had a stroke, and it's yeah, getting those words in. You feel like a failure for getting more words done than most writers do in a day, just
Yeah.
because of the way we used to get words in, than the way Rick still does, punk.
Right.
It's
Well, I have not. I don't want to make this sound uh, arrogant, but I don't feel like a failure when I don't get the words in. I'm just afraid of not making money.
mm,
I mean, because
Yeah.
it's it's just a question of, I've still written enough books this year that I feel like, oh, I've accomplished something. But if the faster I get this book done, then the faster I get to the next book, and I can, keep making the same amount of money and pay the bills. So that's what worries me. It's not so much feeling, bad about myself as just practical considerations.
See, it is kind of existential for me because that's where I guess in what was it, 2019, when I was writing full time for 2 years and kind of was in that boat, and then got like major writer's block, but also my wife had ended up with an autoimmune disorder, like a whole bunch of stuff hit, and like I had to get health insurance. That was one of the big things that I started freaking out about, not having health insurance, and that was really weighing on my ability to get work done. And it just compounded from there. Like then my mom had to move in with us because we found out she had dementia, and then remodeled her house, built a house for her to live in, got her into memory care. It's just like it's ongoing. Like I hate to even list the things because the things will never stop. So I think what Jeff is saying about that momentum and what Rick is saying, you know, under, like, I don't know, between the lines there, is that motivation, like momentum, is what, like, getting, even when Josh only gets a few words a day, like you're doing some kind of work a day on the thing that you love. And for me, that's what helps carry me through. At least I'm thinking about it, I'm doing it, even if I'm not accomplishing what I want to. I mean, what I hate is when I continue, if I'm putting in work like that, but then hit a roadblock and can't get past it, or don't finish the thing that I wanted to finish. It's tough to get through that. And one thing I really don't want to, I definitely want to mention as part of this conversation, is that having friends who are in the same space, the same headspace, going through the same stuff, who I mean, yeah, I'm whining a lot of the time, but they don't treat me like a whiner when I whine. Because we all
Well, we,
experience
we
it.
think it, James. We don't
I
say
know,
it.
I know. You don't say it out loud, and I appreciate that.
I'm just
Or you
kidding.
don't say it to me. But I mean, that's the thing. We're all like, sometimes my wife will look at me and she's like, "Why do you do this?" And I don't know if you all have gotten that question at any point in your life, because the fact is, I have another job and I make pretty good money at it and I'm pretty good at it. But this is the thing that I would prefer to do and want to do, but it's 10 times harder than the other thing, which is probably
Right.
why I want to do it, you know? Um,
See,
Well,
the
and
book I'm
I
in
think,
is that I don't have another job and I've never been
Yeah, me
good at
neither.
anything other than this. So
yeah.
I have to make this work.
yeah. Well, and
Well,
Well,
that's
that's my situation too. I don't have a fallback position.
which maybe that would have helped me if I didn't have a fallback position. That's kind of the problem there. Like you hear a lot of people that, are able to move on. Um, if you don't have another option, you have to make it work. And if maybe it's a little bit of laziness, I don't want to call it laziness. It's just I can't go back in time and not have kids, and I wouldn't choose not to do that. I love my kids, and I'm glad they exist. So this is the world I live in, and so my task is to figure out how to do this stuff that I want to do, on top of the other piece of it. And I think when you're So I tend to be a very systematic thinker, I guess. I'm a project manager in the rest of my life. And so I know that you can pretty much do anything as long as you have a deadline and you can work backwards from it. You break it down into pieces and you assign those pieces, you put them on a calendar, you figure out when the work can actually be done, because that's one thing about construction or anything like that. Like it has to exist in the real world, right? So we can imagine that a project will happen in Fantasyland, but you got to actually make it, fit the real world. And finishing a book project is just like that. And then the thing is, like, sometimes life will drop onto that, and then how do you adjust, right? And that's something I've put a lot of energy into trying to figure out how to do that. And like Josh was saying, like I used to be, it gets like I've also had my own health issues, and one of the things that got really difficult was just feeling like I had brain fog all the time and I couldn't focus. And
yes.
I used to go to bed lie down in bed, think about the thing I wanted to write the next day, get up in the morning, and I was able to get up early, and then I could just sit down and do it because I'd thought about it. And when that went away, I had to try and think of all these different ways to do that. So I was handwriting out what I wanted to say, I was plot or what I wanted to write. I was plotting things a lot more, you know, in depth than I had done before. I would talk to people what I was trying to write. I tried dictation. I tried, walking dictation, pacing dictation, like all these different things that I guess the story there is like if one thing doesn't work, try to find something else that might get you through that block that fits the period of life that you're in. Like maybe you can't sit down at the computer, but you're commuting, so you can use dictation. And there's so many good tools now for dictation that didn't used to exist anymore that are not very expensive. Um,
Well, I'll tell you a story that's not mine,
yeah.
but it was told to me directly, and I won't say who said it or without his permission, but I have a friend who wrote. He's very busy in work and all of that, and sometimes he gets time to write at the computer, and sometimes he doesn't. Um, but when he when he does have time just to himself, he writes. And what he does is when he goes to the restroom and is going to be in there for a little bit of time, he opens up his notepad on his phone and writes his story. And he got I don't know, 60 or 70,000
Crappy
words.
story then, huh?
Yeah, he said this is my toilet novel. Um, and that he only worked on it when he was in there, and you know, uh, 15 20 minutes or whatever, you go in there, you write a little bit, and who knows how much you can get with your thumbs or if you were voice to text or whatever it is, but he did it. And you're just trying to fit that stuff in. And I think too, like on top of like existential crises or physical ailments or families being sick or whatever, sometimes you struggle with the motivation to do it on whether or not you're going to actually make money or not. Is this
Mhm.
actually worth it? And that's why, like, I think James and I are really the only two that have other quote unquote full-time jobs aside from the writing. Now mine's really connected in a way, and I don't have to go
Writing
to the office.
adjacent.
It's writing adjacent, yeah.
Mhm.
But it's also creative too. So it gives me another creative outlet. But you know, for the longest time, the push for in the indie community anyway was the full-time writing, like to get that title. And you weren't anybody unless you had a full-time title, a full-time author
Right.
tag on your name. And
Well, there were plenty of
honestly,
people who were full-time authors, but it was the full-time authors who were also making six figures. That was the
well, yeah, and for some reason that six-figure mark was the pinnacle. That was the point of success where you could call yourself an author. And
because
actually,
way back in the day in 2019, you could survive off of six figures.
for sure.
I
Well,
survive
you
off
know,
six
and a
figures
lot of
now.
those guys are retired, or
Close
you
to.
know, they were, you know, they had a significant other that made a lot of money or whatever it is. Honestly, now since going quote unquote full time in let's just say 2020, so 5 years, 5.5 years, I would almost rather still I would tell people wanting to be a writer, just keep your job, write, and have fun doing it. Because once it becomes, you know, I'm sure Rick and Jeff, they still have fun writing, and writing in the process is fun. But then you also have to deal with the stress of putting food on the table, and sometimes that's not fun, and a lot of times that can get overwhelming. I'm in a really special spot, and I know that I'm very blessed where I have a job that I can work at home, but I also have a sugar mama, and I'm a trophy husband, if you can't tell.
You've got the T-shirt. Look at
I
that.
got the t-shirt and I bought it myself, so it matters. But you know,
Self-proclaimed title.
yeah, if you've got a great job and you're enjoying writing on the side, I would just all like do that. And that way, when you have the struggle, you're not having to pound your face into the keyboard to
Who are
try to
these
get it.
mythical people with great jobs that they love?
No, I'm just even if you don't love it, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like James said, there's way easier ways to make money and to be stressed out about money and trying to figure out what, because the thing like a lot of people don't understand about writing is like none of this crap exists until you put it on paper. And a lot of people talk about writing as it's just getting the words on the page. And it took my wife a couple of years to really understand this. For me, sometimes I've got to spend like 3 or 4 hours just sitting someplace looking off in the distance, thinking about what I'm going to write. And that's work. Like me, just sitting and thinking is work. Now you can kind of go down a rabbit hole and get trapped in just working for hours and hours and hours. But you know, I
So
think
what we've heard is that for Josh, thinking is hard work.
it is. It's very hard work.
I do want to
Very
say
hard
about
work.
that, like one thing I've learned about like you got to keep your family happy too, right? Like I like being
For
married.
sure.
I would like to stay married. So writing is a job that
Right.
can, you know, I want to call it infect, but like it will spread out to fill the space available to it. And so I try to be really clear about if I'm in the office, I'm working. If I'm in the house, I'm not. If I'm like, because she would get frustrated with me if I had a laptop at the table and I was looking at it or doing something, or it never fails. She happens to look at me when I switch off to look at something else. Oh, well,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Are you working? Well, you're always working. You need to, like, so I need like one of those lights on my head that can tell when I'm actually typing to
Yeah.
leave me
You
alone.
need an on-air sign.
Right, right. And then I need to actually use the on-air sign and work when it's happening.
I actually got that for outside of my office, but it didn't fit
Mhm.
on the door. There wasn't an outlet over there. I'm like, well, all right, I'll just put it in here then.
You know, that James brings up a really good point about the work schedule. You know, and I know some people, everybody's different. Some people can just work when they, when they can. You know, I've got six kids, four of them under 10, and a wife. And so I could work the entire day. From the moment I get up and the moment I go to bed, I could be thinking about writing, I could be writing, I could be doing marketing. That's not healthy. It's not good for you, and it's not as productive as when you have like a window that you need to work in. Now, if I didn't have any kids at home, it would be a lot easier for me to do that, and then Becky and I could have our date nights and whatever. But by the time I have no kids at home, probably not gonna be a writer anymore anyways. I'm gonna be a vegetable. I'm gonna be 80. So, it doesn't really matter. The so it's really useful for me to get up early and go somewhere and write. And then when I get back, try really hard to switch off my writer brain and just be there and be present for the family.
Mhm.
It's not easy, but it is helpful.
Right.
Yeah, because even when you are sitting there and you don't have your laptop or your phone or whatever, your writer brain doesn't ever shut off. And there's sometimes I'm sitting watching a movie, or we'll sit at a football game or go to church. Even in church, I'm sitting there and the songs are going and
You just-
everything, and I'm just sitting there going, I could do that. Oh, that'd be great. And then I have to
Then you whip out
pretend.
your phone and you're like, I gotta write this
No, I have
down.
to pretend like I'm taking a note on the sermon on my phone. And I
Say,
write
Mr.
that
Hayes
stuff
is
down.
really into this Bible study right now.
And
He's got
Yeah.
Rebecca's always like, when that happens to me at church, Rebecca's like, oh, really? Now? I'm
Yeah.
like, but
It's the divine inspiration.
100%.
so
100%.
some of my best ideas I've ever had came from when we visited our temple,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm sitting there in a session and I'll just be like, oh, wow, I could totally do this thing. It would be so great. And never fails. Those are the ones that always make it into the book. So
It would resurrect this plot.
Bah.
But I think the subtext there too is that having that support system, whether it's your church, whether it's friends, whether it's something, your bowling. I mean, those are getting harder and harder to find now these days, right? Like a bowling league, like something uh where you have that, because life is going to throw a lot of stuff at you. And one of the things I've really learned that I try to tell people, especially I think, this tends to affect a lot of men, like younger men, fathers, like it is I would gladly listen to anybody that needs to talk, that wants to talk about some difficulty in their life right now. Like you are not putting a burden on me to talk to me about something that's difficult for you. And I think that a lot of times we think, I mean, I'm as guilty of this as anybody. I really have a hard time telling people when something is hard for me, or but I think that people are absolutely willing to help. Like they want to help you. They will listen if you're going through something difficult. And in particular, having friends who are writers that understand that as well, that okay, we can listen, we can, I'm here for you. And then if you'd also like to, let's work through this plot problem together. Like maybe I
Yeah.
can help you get your mind off it while we try and help solve this problem together. Which, also as men, like I'm never happier than when I'm working with somebody on another problem. You know, maybe I need to put the other problem aside and we'll just go build a fence, right? Um, and that I think is an important thing to remember when stuff is difficult.
One of the things that I've found too over the last year is, and I know this kind of goes without saying because we're writers, but sometimes you get wrapped up in the writing and you forget why you started writing in the first place, which is
Mhm.
you liked reading good books. And I read a crap ton. And there are times I get mad because usually uh I do audio, and I listen to audio everywhere, whether I'm driving or mowing the lawn, whatever it is, and then I'll read on my Kindle. I'm usually reading two different books at a time. And there are times at like 11:30 at night when I'm laying in bed reading and I'm like, "Oh my God, I need to put this in a book and I need to get up and write, but I can't. I got to go to sleep because the kids get up in the morning and all that." But there's a lot of times where I'll read a book, chapter or whatever it is, and then I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can do that." Especially if it's a really, really good book. I mean, I'm on my third or fourth read through of the Gray Man series, and every time I read those books, I'm just like, I'm in it. I got to go write some more.
real quick, as an aside, recently James did a cool review of a book called Connected Soldiers by John Spencer. You should check it out. It's on our YouTube channel. John Spencer just posted on that video
Did he?
like 2 weeks ago and said thanks for the review.
Oh,
So I
well,
thought
that's
that
cool.
would be cool to mention.
What book was it? You broke up just a little bit.
Connected Soldiers.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Well,
It's a
and
memoir.
yeah, a big part of that book is basically changes in how, soldiers, like social media affected their, like how they come together to process, things they'd gone through, like in combat in particular. This was in Iraq where he was. And so how they, initially in 2003, they had no internet. They spent time, like if something bad happened, they spent time together and eating or in the barracks or whatever. And then when he went back to Iraq in 2008, everybody had internet. And so whenever something bad happened, or just even at the end of the shift day, they were all in their hooches, on their phones. And it totally changed. Well, not their phones in particular then, but on the internet. And it just changed the way they processed anything. And I think that definitely yet another way I think that book relates to, this profession is it really does help to process stuff or come together with problems with friends. And the internet enables that in a lot of ways. Like all of us met because of the internet, you know. I mean, now we've met in person many times, but um, I'm pretty grateful for that. I mean, I hate Facebook, but I'm glad Facebook exists for that reason. I don't want to
Right.
pull the ladder up, you know, but like Facebook has
And
good
in
things.
that friend group, having people you can reach out to, especially authors who understand what you're going through. I remember a couple times you guys reached out to me, and not just like my life sucks, but we've had story problems or book problems, or want to run a plot idea by somebody, or just staying up until 4 o'clock in the morning talking, whatever. It's just I mean, you guys are literally my best friends, so it's helpful. I don't really have a lot of real life friends. By real life, I mean people who
Real
live
life.
Well, and writer friends, they get it. You know what I mean? Like they're you can talk to your spouse or your buddies that you play golf with or whatever, but they don't really get it. Um, I just I always caution, like I would, like we're all a part of a writing group, and we've had our writing group going on for 5, 6 years or something. I mean, it's been a long time.
Hmm.
Um, but I always caution people if they go into writers groups, they want to start one or whatever. Um, Try to stay away from critiquing each other's books, um, because normally that goes down a bad rabbit hole that you don't want to go down. If you figure out a way to, like, if you ask somebody, "Hey, what's your thoughts about this?" Then that's different. But just the support system is really good, and the accountability for writing and all of that.
I've been a part of writers groups where the book critique thing was a thing, and it was
Hmm.
after had seen some success with Arsenal and a few other books, and I was really honest with my critiques of them. I was trying to help them from the best of my ability, be better writers. And the thing I found was most aspiring writers never think about the business side or the marketing side and I don't mean like they don't think about the money. I mean like they don't think about how marketable their work is, how original in the sense of like, okay, well, this has been done a million times and you're not bringing anything new to it. Bring some the same story, that kind of thing. And when I gave them something to, they ripped it to shreds. And this is after I'd already hit my USA Today and after I was already making, $70,000 a year on my own stuff. This is before Aethon. And it hurt me personally because like, not because I cared about what they said, but the fact that they gave me a really cliche um, review stuff on my books. And I'm like, you guys don't understand what makes a successful book work. You don't understand what people like. You think because, Jeff's kind of a pedestrian writer and he doesn't really have the
That's true.
elegant prose that I have. Obviously his books must suck, so we're just going to rip it to shreds. And it's like I never went back. I never
Well,
went
that's
back.
the thing too. Like when you've got to be really upfront about the criticism you're looking for, because a lot of writers, and I do this on books that I read, but a lot of writers will rewrite it the way that they would write it. They look at your sentence structure and be like, I wouldn't write it like that, and
No,
then
you
they'll
need to
get
critique it as a reader.
100%. Well, but if you're asking for like a plot, is this beat right? Does this feel right emotionally? Then that's different than your sentence doesn't really, it's not, I'm not, it's, I don't like it. I don't like your writing style here. Like, or you could use and instead of but, whatever it is. Like, if you're going to find a group like that, you need to be aware of what you're looking for, because I don't need grammar help.
He doesn't like your writing style. I
Yeah.
don't like your writing style either.
I have the New
Just be
York Times
cautious.
bestseller list in 12 states.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
And also speaking about adversity, and trying to overcome like the road bumps or the speed bumps, sometimes you just need to take a break. Sometimes if you're not, if you're fighting the words or you're fighting life to get the words, sometimes you just need to step back and just let it sit for a minute. You know, uh, I was an off and on writer from 14 to whatever it is, 38 or something. And, I was never really serious about it. But, if you've got to take 2 or 3 months off and kind of figure out everything else and get back into it, then do that. Because sometimes it's not worth the stress of, especially, I mean, if you're not a full-time writer, I'm saying if you've got other stuff and you're trying to, get better at it, make this go from a hobby to something else. If you still got another job, sometimes just take that. And this is the thing is no one's going to consider that a failure. You know what I mean? Like we've
Yeah,
all been there.
I would tend to disagree in the sense that the longer you go without writing, the easier it is to not start again. I've been there.
That is true. That is true.
But
I mean, if you got to take time, you got to take time, but take as little time as possible
for sure. Yeah.
to get through it.
That's why like our friend Scott, playing music. I play music. I do a lot of work around my house. Like I try to find other things to, occupy my brain that I enjoy doing. And I guess as time goes on, like I would absolutely say if you need to take a break, take a break. But I think I'm kind of in the same boat as Rick because I blink and like a month has disappeared. And I hate that about my life right now.
I
It's
blinked and 2025 was almost over.
right. And then it feels like, crap, I really wanted to be done with this thing and now I'm not done with it. And, so trying to do things concurrently, that's another thing that we in the group have talked a lot about. Before we lose the group conversation, I do want to say too, like the dynamic in our group when we came together, like I think we were all very much on that same wavelength. And it was actually, we were very intentional about folks we even invited into the group.
Yeah.
And it's not like, I mean, we've had our disagreements within the group and part of how we come together to, continue on. But finding people who are on the same wavelength as you is really, really important. And I think we all learned that lesson that obviously we want to write the best stuff we can write, but also we produce work. And sometimes you don't, you know, what's important to the readers is not necessarily what's important to writers and even different groups of readers, right? And that's one of the biggest lessons you have to learn if you want to work professionally, is that, you can wordsmith prose all day long and really make your friends angry, like Jeff's talking about. And hopefully that's not what the readers even care about. So you just wasted a whole bunch of energy on something and potentially ruined a friendship over a paragraph.
For sure.
It's just that's not even what's important about that. So
I mean, I've got one of my really good friends. I can't read what he writes because for me it doesn't hit. But he makes a gazillion dollars, and like I'm like, hey, bro, like that's amazing. I'm never gonna critique your stuff because that's not how it doesn't hit me. Sometimes it just doesn't. It could be it is good because he makes money on his books.
Listen, if you're a vegetarian, don't ask to critique cheeseburger.
100%.
Right.
Right.
But you could still be friends with the vegetarian.
For sure. Yeah, 100. Well,
even make the questionable life choice of marrying one, but then they have plenty of other qualities that you
Oh
appreciate.
no, did I step in it?
Oh no. Well, I mean I live with that every day. I'm married to a vegetarian.
Well, I'm like my wife can't have gluten or soy or dairy or anything like that, and so and I love cooking, and so it's very hard for me because I can't go in and just start whip something up. It's just, was that gluten in that seasoning? I don't know. I just put it in there. Yep, there's gluten in it.
That's harder than
Talk about living
vegetarian.
with adversity.
Yeah,
Right.
But the big thing is like when you have these problems that come up in your life, you've got to find a way to keep writing. You got to find a way to keep thinking about writing. I was complaining before the podcast. I wrote 30 whole words this morning, and that's 30 words I hadn't written before. And you have to think of it this way. If your options are 0 words or 100 words, you're always going to choose 100 words.
Yep.
Right.
The 100 words often leads to more words. I'll get more words done today. Not a lot more, but I'll get more words done today. And you just got to keep moving forward and keep watching that word count grow. And it does get easier, even when life sucks and everything's hard and you feel like you're creatively bankrupt.
Well, it's
Don't judge your work when you're in this bad place. Just keep working. Don't go back and reread it and go, "Oh, this sucks. I have to start over," because you're not in the place to judge your own work. And some of my best stuff has been written when I was not in a great mental place.
That's the thing. You might think it was terrible, and you go back and read it later, and you're like, "Oh, that is actually great."
The other thing that I find really critical for every author, including myself, is sometimes we have a tendency to judge our credibility as an author by how many words we write a day or how many books we have published. Like if I were to use that metric, I would be the worst author probably in this room. Rick puts out books every month, and Jeff, you've got massive followings, and you not a book a month, but you're more than I am in the last couple of years. But even in daily word counts, like you're looking at your word count and you're like, I only got 500 words today, and look at Rick, he's got 9,000 today. And you can't compare yourself like that, and I struggled with that for a really long time, going, I can only get 2,000 good words a day, and look at all these other people that are talking about 5 or 6 or 7,000 word days. I think the most I've ever done in a day was like 8,900, and then I didn't write for like 4 days after that. And so like you find your sweet spot and stay there. And if your sweet spot's 500 words, that's, I mean, what's 500 words, I think,
That's a
will
book
give
in a
you
year.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
300,000 words in a year. I mean, that's still,
yeah, it's a lot.
yeah.
500 every day is a lot, and it doesn't take
500
very
every day
long.
is better than 1,000 every once in a while.
100%, 100%. But that's the thing, is just don't, even when you even as you make it as full time, you're always comparing yourself to somebody else, and that can be to your detriment too. You work at word count or how much money they make or whatever it is, how many books they have out, and you have to be okay with what you're doing, and just persevere that way.
I think we are getting a little away from the whole writing through adversity. I'd like to hear a little more strategies for writing through adversity, like mental strategies.
All right, what do you got, dude? What do you got?
Well, I'm asking you guys, but for me, it's easy. I'm not easy. It's simple. If he who doesn't work doesn't eat. Well, if I don't write, I don't pay the bills. But for people who are doing this for love of writing, how do you get through adversity? If there's not a financial pressure, what keeps you going when writing is really hard?
For me, it's just like I enjoy the process of it, even when I tell myself I don't enjoy the process of it. Once I get into it, if I actually sit down and get into it, the process is amazing for me. I absolutely love it. Even if I delete half the words that I write. And that's why I track gross words and not net words, because I delete a lot. But I love going in there and writing out a scene and knowing that scene works. And that convincing myself to sit down, that's the problem. That's where I fight, is convincing myself to sit down. Once I sit down and start typing, um, you generally, it doesn't matter. Now, if I'm in a bad mood, sometimes I don't want to, and I don't think that's adversity. Like if you're having a bad day or you have a fight or whatever it is, like that's not adversity to me. Like that's life. Sometimes you have bad days and you can't do work. Sometimes you got to call in sick to work. That just happens. Um, but like in terms of, for the project that almost killed my entire love of writing, I had a contract, so I couldn't stop. And I just sat there and just told myself, I'm just going to do it and get it done and be done with it. And there were days that I got 1,000 words. There were days that I got a couple thousand words. Um, when I get closer to the end, then I start speeding up a whole lot. And that's the thing. Like you get a couple hundred words here or there, but once you get to that 70,000, 80,000 word mark, whatever you're trying to get to, once you get closer to that, you're like, oh man, this is really coming together. I'm almost done. And then you just start pounding it out. Um, a lot of times it's telling myself that the process is what I enjoy. Go and do that.
Yeah.
Before I started writing for a living, uh, back when we had young kids in the house.
And typewriters, or was that on a stone tablet that you were using?
My kids aren't that old.
But you are.
But what would keep me going,
Hey, now he's only a couple years older than me.
and this is going to sound
Exactly.
like heresy coming from me, Mr. Outliner, but actually, pantsing made me more excited about writing back when I was doing it for the love of writing rather than for money. Um, because the process of surprising myself by what was going to happen next was something that kept me motivated to write, even when I was distracted by all kinds of kid related stuff.
Yeah.
Also, writing something different helps too. Like,
Yeah.
I've been writing sci-fi pretty much. Uh, that's all I've been writing since I went full time. And I switched over for about a month, I think, last year or something. And I was writing on this thriller that I want to work on. And man, I started working on that, and the words just started flying. Completely different genre, like new characters, new, like everything. And they were just flying. And I was having such a good time with it. And so sometimes just like, if you're struggling with wanting to write the book you're working on, go and work on something else.
Try something else.
And that's not, if you're a full-time writer or you need to get that book done, you got a contract, like it's not probably the greatest thing to do. But if you're in a situation where you're just trying to be a writer and you're doing it for the love of doing it, sometimes setting that aside for a while and going working on something else that'll kickstart it again, and you'll be able to push through. And then maybe you get to a point where you're working on that other project and you're like, oh, I know how to fix that other book. you know
It comes to you.
it comes to you.
Yeah.
Writer's block is a thing. I know that it is a struggle, but it can be a struggle because of multiple different reasons. It's not like a blanket statement to say you have writer's block. Sometimes you just can't figure out a plot point and you got to give it a minute. Sometimes you don't want to write. Sometimes you're sick and you can't, or whatever. Or you've got other stuff going on that you'd rather do. But sometimes switching over and doing something completely different. Rick wants to write a fantasy book, and I know he doesn't have any time to do it, but I bet in Rick's position, if he ever got hung up on writing sci-fi, he could go tap in that
We
universe for a
want
while.
we want that fantasy book to exist. I mean, I think
yeah.
it all comes down to like
The only way
anytime.
I'd have time to write a fantasy book is if I did a Kickstarter and made like, $100,000 from people who
Now we're
wanted
just going to
that fantasy
clone
book.
you.
Just
That's the
do
way to
the
play it.
just do the Sanderson secret novel thing, man.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of this comes down to communication in a lot of ways. Like if I don't know the answer to something and I'm frustrated with myself because I don't know it, like I don't know the answer to what a character should do or how the plot should be fixed, I almost always should probably talk to someone about it and try and figure it out.
Yeah.
And for me, the roadblock to doing that is I don't often want to admit that I don't have the answer. Like
Ooh, yeah.
why I'm a writer, why can't I figure this out? I've done this
Mm.
before, why can't I figure it out? But same point of fact when it comes to like with anything, if this is important to you, and if you like me, you have a family, you got a lot of commitments, every week on Sunday we sit down and go through our schedule for what the week's going to look like. And like anything with getting things done, like it doesn't exist unless it's on the calendar, right? It needs time, resources, and people. And so if you want to make a thing happen, I really recommend you talk to, if it's your spouse, if it's anybody, you put it on the calendar. This is the time I'm going to do it. It's going to happen on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. in the morning or 6 p.m. at night. And that way they know that this is the time that they set, I'm going to go do this. And James is doing that. And we're going to support him doing that. And you pull your whole family in there with you so they can be part of your success. And obviously stuff gets in the way, but if your family, is there with you, then they'll want to help you make that happen. But I think putting that on the calendar is a really important piece of making sure that work is going to happen. And that way, also for me at least, if I know other people are wanting me to get, are really there with me to help get something done, it's much more likely for me to do it. I hate to say it. But also they know that, okay, this thing came up, I could do it, or maybe my wife could jump in and help because she told me that she would give me this time to get this done. And she doesn't ask me to go, you know, take our daughter to soccer practice or whatever, because she committed to doing it. And
Right.
and I think that can be a big piece of getting through a block that might be happening, even if you have a whole bunch of other stuff happening. You know, dad's in the hospital. I'm going to take 30 minutes and go do this while I'm out and I was working with an editor who literally her husband was in the hospital and she was like in the hallway. And I don't recommend that. Quite honestly, I really felt bad for her, but, she was making it happen, but her family knew that was like very important to her to get that done. So even while her husband was sick, he wanted her to do the thing that she loved doing.
By the way,
Well,
Jeff said that it's really windy where he is and he just lost internet.
Oh, shoot.
uh,
Okay.
Well, I would say too on that, like I wouldn't say that I'd ever want to go back to having a like an office job somewhere where I had to clock in at 8 or whatever, but
Mhm.
I sometimes I miss having that uh responsibility and having like you have to go to your job, you have to get the, and then you have to get up at 5 a.m. to do the words. And now I could get up at 5 a.m., but I don't have to. And having that like built-in kind of restriction, that built-in kind of like if you don't do this now, you're not going
Yeah.
to have it. Sometimes I miss that because I mean that when I was doing it, man, I was up every morning and pounding out the words, and I
For
don't
me, it almost like lays out all these parts of my life. Like I try to be relatively open. Like it's better if I don't drink a lot. Um, and so
100%.
if I have a six, if I have a six pack at night, like if it makes it very difficult for me to go to bed because then I can't sleep and then
Yeah.
I can't get up. And so for me, like the win is going to bed on time at 10 and then getting up at 5 and all those things sort of like structure your life in a way to be focused on the thing that you want to get done, and I think that like working backwards from that thing, like for me, I get up at 5 and I do the work and when I'm done, I feel great. It's like working out or um and it kind of working backwards for all those things you need to do to get to the point where you want to be. Maybe you just need to sit and think about that. Like what are all the other steps I need to take to make this happen? And you'll get there. And as long as your family's on board too. I think it tactically, like Rick, that's how, for me, that's how like I get to the point of being able to do the work. And then it's like I ultimately like I love being a guy who has written books. That's the guy I want to be.
Yeah.
I want to be 60 and I want to be like, I try not to compare myself to Rick, obviously, but I would love to be able to look back and have a similar body of work of stuff that I've, ultimately
You
what
want to
I've
have a
done.
similar body to me, James?
That would be great too. But I don't know if that's going to happen. But staying away from the six packs definitely
Mm.
helps. Um, but for me, that's like if we look into like what are the actual steps you can take, like I think breaking it down almost like there's a great book I like called Getting Things Done, which has kind of fallen out of vogue now, but it was all about like if you want to get something done, what are the smallest steps it takes? And if there's a step that can be done right now, just do it. And if it's a
Mm.
step that takes 5 minutes, make a to-do list or, whatever to get yourself to the point of, the thing you needed to accomplish, which in our
Right.
case is writing a book, and you can
My,
break all those things down into steps.
my opinion is that if you build good habits in times when there are no when there's no adversity,
Hmm.
when there is adversity, the built-in ingrained habits will carry you through it to some extent.
I agree
Because
with that.
you
Yeah.
you if it's like I told people before, it's like if you want to get in shape, if you want to work out every day, then don't make working out an optional thing. Make it a mandatory thing like brushing your teeth or taking a shower or fixing dinner. It's just something you do every day and you work it into your schedule and it's not optional. It's not like, oh, I guess I just don't have time to work out today. It's like, no, this is my workout time. The other thing's going to have to get shoved aside to a different time.
Right. Well, it's discipline
So
ultimately,
if you
right?
if you get into that kind of a mindset where the writing occupies the same time every day, then it'll be easier to just say, well, no matter if I'm sick or if I had surgery or if I don't feel good, I don't fight, I have like stress in my life. Well, this is just the thing I do at this time of day. So
I mean, yeah, I having that schedule is big, but also um, they short stories are not a thing anymore, really, in terms of like financially doing anything for you. But sometimes doing a quick short story, a quick 10,000 words or a quick novella or whatever it is, and finishing it, that's motivation. And like, you look at writing 100,000 word book, especially if it's your first one or your second one or your whatever, and it just takes so long for a lot of people to get those words out. Sometimes those little victories, like uh, James is saying, even in a writing, if you can either do a short or a novella, or even just look at the chapters and go, okay, I'm going to finish this chapter this week or whatever it is, and tally that as a win. That helps me a lot, especially if I in my manuscript that been working on for 18 years, I have these little D marks that says done next to the chapter, and seeing those like actually rack up and seeing that I have more dones than not dones, um, that is really extremely motivating. And just taking the monumental task of writing a novel and breaking it down, not in terms of structure or character development or whatever it is, but just in the production of the thing itself, and logging that as a win. Tracking words is one thing. We get to a point where you don't want to have a 0 day. You want to keep those words tracked, and then you feel successful there, but also getting the chapters, or even if it's a character bio or something, like knock out that stuff, and those are motivational in and of themselves, just to get that stuff done and call it a win, instead of just saying, I did this bio but I didn't write anything. Well, maybe you needed it, and maybe that's going to help you later on. Just take every little victory, every little success that you have, and like just use that as motivation to continue, because it sounds kind of silly when I'm like, wow, I wrote a character bio today. Well, like some people don't even get that far,
I know.
and
I mean,
if it's something you need to push yourself, then chalk that up as a win.
we live in a time where you're constantly have other things dragging at your attention. So I
Right.
would much prefer to say that I wrote a scene than I sat and looked at social media for 30 minutes.
For sure.
That definitely makes me feel better. So,
Yeah.
um,
Something that sounds kind of ridiculous, but it actually might help people, is instead of saying, I'm just going to give up social media, maybe scheduling social media time in your day,
yeah.
where you say, well, this is a time where I'm not doing anything else and it's not my writing time. So this is when I'm going to look at social media. And if I don't look at it then I don't get to look at it.
If
That's
we
my
hadn't
social
met
media
via
time.
social media, I would say there was no value in social media, but that's just my feeling right now.
I mean, yeah, I don't engage very often in social. A lot of times I'm just scrolling and hit the like or whatever. But I mean, Rick's right. You can get kind of wrapped up in that, spend
Yep.
2 hours scrolling, and you haven't got anything done. I've taken it off my phone before so that I can only do it on the computer, but then it like shuts down my writing time. So like,
Yeah,
uh,
I would never take it off my phone because that's when I wanted to, like when your guy was writing his toilet novel. Well,
yeah, yeah,
that you could do social media then, and then when you get on
right.
the computer, you don't feel the need to do it.
Sometimes moving helps. I found that when I was getting like when I first started getting into weaponized before I had to stop, I when I couldn't sit at my desk and write. I need to fix my camera mount. It's really shaky. Sorry about that. When I couldn't sit at the desk and write, and I was having motivational problems and really, really struggling, I went outside on the deck and I was writing outside, and that I don't know what it is. That helped a lot. I was able to go out there and I'd sit out there for a couple hours before it got too hot and knock out 1,000 words or 2,000 words. I mean, the other day I went to Starbucks for no reason in particular. No, I was getting my wife's oil change, and I walked across the parking lot to Starbucks and just sat and worked. And I wouldn't typically go there. It's kind of distracting sometimes, but just as a one-off, like pick up your computer and go somewhere else and kind of get in a new environment. Or like I've taken it downstairs and sat on the couch before. We've got one of those gas fireplaces, and I can go downstairs, flip on the fireplace, and just sit on the couch with my laptop and get 500 or 600 words in. And sometimes that helps. Sometimes that's a lot easier than just sitting at the desk and feeling trapped and uh, alone in my office and all of that. And I can get those words and just change it in a locale.
I remember you posting about the patio. It was like you're on vacation.
I mean, it
It
really
was,
was. It really,
yeah,
and the thing about that too is you have to be intentional about that. Well, I do anyway. Like I'd take out my computer, but I also have a stand and I got a mouse pad or whatever else. So you've got to really think about like it's kind of like going to Starbucks. I got to put everything in my backpack. And now I get to Starbucks and I'm like, I've put all this stuff in my backpack. I got to take it out. I got to use. You got to be intentional about it. It's not just going into your office and sitting down and going, I didn't do anything to get here. I'm not going to do any of this. So just taking my laptop outside, I'd have to think like now I've got to unplug my laptop from my monitors and my hard drives and all of that. It takes me about, yeah, 5 or 10 seconds to do it all, but still, you got to be intentional about it. And
Why
then,
don't you just get a second laptop for writing outside?
yeah, I should do that. I'm gonna make Jamie buy me one.
yeah. We
I
didn't
mean,
even get into other tools and whatnot you could use, but yeah, old laptops, old
I have like four
yeah,
laptops.
I used a Remarkable for a while. I've still got it
yeah.
around here somewhere. I need to get a new pin or a new tip. But that was really fun. The Remarkable will take your handwriting and turn it into digital text that you can edit later. So if you're into handwriting, I one of the things I do too, and I know a lot of people uh, frown about it, but I do handwritten plot notes and stuff in a notebook. Like, and I carry this not everywhere, but I mean, I do handwritten notes all over the place, and sometimes just even doing that is motivational. Um, I know some people say it's old fashioned or whatnot, but man, you get a good notebook and a good pen. Stone paper and Sharpie extra fines are amazing. Just saying.
Yeah, that's something too. Like if you're having a hard time like changing up the way that you're writing to change how your brain maybe is approaching it. And
Yeah.
yeah, a nice pen with good paper is, always kind of fun too. So
A lot of people give pen and paper a lot of crap, but like
yeah.
I can't write that fast. I'm like, sometimes that's what you need. Like sometimes, like I'll think of a sentence and I'm like halfway done with the sentence and I'll already be thinking about the next one. But it takes you some, you're being a little bit more cognizant of what you're writing, and
Mhm.
you have to sit and kind of think about it. And I love it. I absolutely love writing by hand. If I could do, can't remember if there was an author or if I'm just making this up out of thin air. I thought that there was an author who just wrote by hand. He wrote like on legal paper and then gave it to somebody else to type. And it's kind of like the way Kevin J. Anderson when he used
Yeah.
to.
Well, I mean, definitely throughout history, but we were just teasing Rick that his his wife is helping him write right now, which is
Yeah,
super kind of her, but it's like harkening back to those writers of the 20s and 30s that would talk about, you
yeah,
know,
for sure. I don't know if I'd go so far as to get a typewriter. I had one of
yeah.
those, and I
Huh.
wrote an entire novel on a typewriter one time. But thinking about like editing that and like rewriting, no, I ain't doing that, bro. I'm not retyping a hundred
No.
thousand
I
words
never
just
knew
to
how to
fix it.
type. I could never use a typewriter ever.
Yeah,
I will say one thing, one of the downsides of having our friend Scott, like I absolutely feel him when he talks about this too. Like, I have a job, I have a little bit of disposable income to spend on this stuff. And
hmm,
sometimes it feels like you can throw a lot of money at like writer's block or a problem. And so
yeah,
I don't have them on the shelf behind me, but I have so many, the Pomera, the Neo, the Alpha Smart, the like all these different like writing tools that are super cool. And, it's fun to grab one and go write on it. But the fact is, it doesn't like make words out of your brain. So
right.
you like work on the root cause of something else that's happening and just use the tools you have. Like you don't need a special typewriter. You don't need a new keyboard. They're nice. They're great,
I just bought
but
a new keyboard today. Don't
yeah.
I'm a keyboard freak
Me
though.
too. I
Don't
mean, me
listen to
too.
me.
I finally I've been organizing a lot of my stuff, and when I see like that I literally have 20 keyboards,
Yeah.
it's time to stop. So,
What I do want to
Need
get
an
though,
intervention.
yeah,
right.
what I do want to get again, and I had one of these a long time ago, is one of those really, really small folding keyboards that are they fold up to about the size of your phone, but
Uh-huh.
then you unfold them and it's like a regular keyboard. And you can Bluetooth it to your phone. I'd love to get one of those again and just go somewhere and just type on my phone. Like just kind of a change of, because you can do Google Docs or whatever it is on your phone, and you don't have to do a whole bunch of transfer stuff. And You don't have to lug your laptop and a whole backpack everywhere. It's just, you pop it out. It's
I
kind
mean,
of
all
like
the new
the
tech and
free ride or whatever.
low profile mechanical keys make all that
Hmm.
possible.
Oh
So
yeah, for sure.
yeah, there's a cool one that folds up lengthwise, so you end up with like kind of like a pencil case, right? But then you can unfold it, and it's got little stands that come out for your phone.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah,
I
oh
almost
yeah,
got one that was the roll up one that was like it was all silicon, but it was a roll up keyboard, and you
Mm.
could like twist it and all that. So you just roll it on your desk. I'm really interested. I know we're off topic here, but I'm really interested to get this Type Max keyboard and see how
Right,
that
Max.
it's Craig Martell posted about it a couple of weeks
Oh,
ago
that
on
one with all the
Facebook.
different symbols on it. So you've got a key
Yeah.
for every strange symbol you want.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I just think this is definitely a rabbit hole you can go down and throw money at a problem
for
where,
sure.
it's the thing that will help, at least for me, the thing that gets the words done is sitting down and actually writing words.
Oh yeah.
So don't
Oh
waste
yeah.
time researching stuff. Don't waste time watching YouTube videos about it.
And by the
That's
way,
all.
don't rest your elbows on the desk or your armchair and put all your weight on them for a long period of time, because then you get cubital tunnel syndrome.
Oh yeah, that's
Cubital tunnel,
bad.
not carpal tunnel,
That's
cubital tunnel.
bad.
That's the ulnar nerve gets pinched by your ligament in your elbow.
Oh man. All right, well, I'm gonna head over to our local Barnes and Noble and see if they've got a copy of Contact Front. And if everybody would do a favor and find your local Barnes and Noble, and I hope you still have one in
And if
your
they don't
area.
have one in stock, then order it, because the more people who order it, the more likely they'll stock it.
For
Yep.
sure.
So yeah, if you weren't aware, both Contact Front and also Jeff's Against All Odds should be in paperback at your local Barnes and Noble. So
Is it out yet or is it coming out
Yeah,
later?
they both came out yesterday.
Oh, okay, cool.
yeah, so you're gonna have to go find them squeezed between like 1,000 copies of Dungeon Crawler Carl, and
Huh.
No lie.
right. But yeah, check it out, because that is a big step up for Athon, and it's a huge milestone for Rick and Jeff. So we're really, really excited for them. Um,
100%.
all right. Well, hey, check us out in the Discord if you haven't joined the group yet. And if you've had any challenges that you think would be helpful to share when it comes to adversity in your life and working, and maybe just in being able to enjoy, MIL-SF, and, maybe books that helped you get through a hard time. We would love to hear about it. So let us know in the comments or let us know in the Discord. All right. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. We will see you next time.
Rick, did you just have to salute left